Welcome into a new Buff Stampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. Here today to preview Colorado's upcoming home game against Kansas State, and I am joined by Brien Henley, better known as Big B for the Big 12 Insiders, and he's a Kansas State guy, but you are also as knowledgeable about the whole Big 12 as anybody out there, and so I hope folks have been checking out your podcast. Thanks for joining the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So Kansas State is 4-1, and we can look at the scores, but for the Colorado folks that haven't had a chance to really tune in and get a firm grasp of this Wildcats team, I'm curious how this 4-1 start is kind of matched up with your expectations going in.
It's matching up. They're getting better. Here's the thing about Kansas State. They have not handled the road very well at all. They started off the season against UT Martin, and that kind of is what it is. And then they went on the road to Tulane, and that did not go well. They were just squeaked by, a little controversial how they won. They were able to win the football game, but they just did not handle going on the road. Then they come back, and then they squash Arizona, and really took it to Arizona. Were really, really physical. Then they went to Provo, and I know Colorado fans understand what it's like going to Provo, and it was at night, and it didn't go well. They started the game well, but a little bit of adversity and then the snowball effect, and Kansas State did not handle it. And I always say, Adam, it's tough when a team your leader is a sophomore, a true sophomore. And when he hasn't been through some of the fires, how he reacts, then the team follows that. And Avery Johnson didn't react well in that football game. So the rest of Kansas State, they just did not react. It was disappointing, and BYU just blew them out. Then you come back to next week. Now we're finding out that Oklahoma State's not very good, but Kansas State really put the screws to them. I mean, they just ran all over them and beat them up. So it's kind of a tale of two types of teams. They're really good at home, but they haven't shown anything on the road yet this year. So expectations, it's like you thought they'd be a little bit better, but they got to see it, got to see it.
What is kind of the identity of this program under Chris Klieman? Has it been pretty consistent during his tenure, or has it kind of changed a little bit during his short tenure there?
The only down year was COVID. In COVID, it was just kind of a crazy year for everybody. There was a lot going on, and not only at Kansas State, Big 12, all over the country. It's just a lot going on at the time. But it's been pretty consistent. I mean, they're a hard-nosed football team. You think grind it out. Doesn't mean they can't throw the football, but it's just a hard nose. It's really built on culture, a lot of culture. And when I mean culture, I'm talking about of a family atmosphere, kids getting along, even the transfers that he brings in. You want to make sure that they mesh well with what you currently have going on in the locker room, or they don't take you. So that's kind of what Kansas State has built, is kind of a big-time family atmosphere. It's not that everybody else doesn't have that. It's just a little different at Kansas State. It's always been even when I played there back in the late 90s, it was just different at Kansas State. And I think it had to be just because of kind of where it was and, the history and all of that. It's a different place. That's all.
Is DJ Giddens the best running back in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think so. I've said it from day one. I said it last year. I go, he's a pro. He's big. He doesn't have breakaway speed, but he's fast enough. He's elusive. He's tough. He runs hard. He doesn't run out of bounds. And you'll see it. If there's an opportunity on the sideline on Saturday, he's going to try to run through a guy versus just running out of bounds. That's not who he is. He doesn't talk much. He's very quiet. It's different from some of the college players. He just is a quiet, kind of shy guy. But he is an absolute pro, and he didn't start that way either, Adam. When you saw him as a freshman running back, you thought, man, this guy, who are they going to recruit over him? Because he doesn't even know how to be a running back. Well, all of that has changed. It's all changed. And I think the biggest attribute is what he does in the passing game, not just catching the ball out of the backfield, but picking up blitzers and in his pass protection. He's an absolute NFL running back.
What other playmakers on Kansas State squad should Colorado fans be aware of going into this matchup?
Well, Avery Johnson obviously is a quarterback. He's just getting his feet wet as a passer. He's starting to get better, but he still has his moments. Look, Dylan Edwards, as Colorado fans know, is electric. They haven't really used him a lot, at least not what Kansas State fans would want him to be used. Early in the season, he wasn't getting that many touches. That started to pick up over the last couple of weeks. And I imagine it's going to pick up even more with Colorado as they figure out the best ways to be able to use him, because he's a weapon, as you guys know. He's a weapon. Now, the receiving core hasn't been great. Jace Brown, he's okay. It just the receiving core is left to be desired at Kansas State, and it has for several years. They use tight ends, but it's been a mixed bag. So it's not that they can't make plays. It's just sometimes the play calling gets really conservative, but those are basically your three main guys.
What about defensively? Who stands out on that side of the ball for the Wildcats?
Austin Romaine. Look, he's a sophomore. He struggled near the end of last year, but he's a really, really big-time playmaker for Kansas State. He's their best linebacker. Look, Austin Moore is also there, which is crazy to say that you would think Austin Romaine is a better linebacker, but he is. He's bigger. He makes more plays. He's just a better he's the best linebacker that they have, and they have three really good ones. They do. Desmond Purcell, he's really good as well. So those would be the three guys. Look, the linebacking core is very deep at Kansas State right now. Maybe the deep that it's been in 15, 20 years, to be honest. They have a lot of good guys that can play. They don't play them all because you don't need to play them all, but that's where the strength of this defense is in that linebacking core.
You're going to be heading out to Boulder this week to take in the game and cover it. How do you see this game shaking out? What are your expectations as you get on the road out to Colorado?
I think it's going to be a close game. First of all, I'm excited about being out there. I haven't been out there since 1998. And tell everybody the last time I was there, it was as a player. I remember I grew up watching Colorado because Colorado was really, really good back then, especially in the early 90s. So you watch them as a kid, and the only thing I wanted to see was Ralphie. Well, it was a little intimidating at the beginning of the game because you know how they run Ralphie around, and then Ralphie comes running directly at you when you're the visiting team. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is Ralphie going to run in this trailer? Or is he just going to bowl us all over? So that was really fun. I'm looking forward to that. I know that sounds cheesy, but I promise you I am. But I think it's going to be a really good football game more than anything, Adam, because I think you mentioned it. It's going to be a make or break game for both teams. Legitimacy. Look, Colorado's a good football team, whether people want to give them credit or not. They are. And Kansas State is a good football team. A lot of people have said Colorado hasn't beaten anybody any good yet because UCF really isn't that good. They can't say that if they beat Kansas State. I don't care if people try to say that or not. Sane people are not going to be saying that Kansas State is not any good. So that buck stops here. I'm looking forward to a really, really good football game. And again, whoever wins, they're going to have a notch on their belt because the team they beat is a good football team.
I agree 100%. It should be a very entertaining game. And I can tell you watching Ralphie run from the press box is definitely a little less intimidating than being right down there on the field with her. So safe travels out to Colorado, and thanks for joining the show.
No problem, man. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you.